What up guys, this is Billy Charles, welcome back to my channel. Today, let's talk about the LA riots and what's going on.
You begin tonight with Los Angeles bracing tonight after sweeping immigration raids sparked protests and clashes tonight. A U.S. official now confirming to ABC News 700 Marines are now on their way to Los Angeles to join California's National Guard, which was deployed by the president, not that state's governor. Late this afternoon, a peaceful protest after the arrest of a union leader, but the city is bracing for nightfall. It was a far different scene over the weekend. Protesters setting off fireworks right there, police officers right nearby. A line of self-driving vehicles set on fire. Crowd shutting down the 101.
Dang, that's crazy. So I first heard this like last week about the riots, hearing about the ICE raids and them trying to pick up illegal immigrants, undocumented people. And it seemed like a lot of people weren't happy about it because a lot of them are good people. You know, they weren't like criminals according to what people are saying. So let's see.
Way downtown, LAPD officers trying to move them off. The moment a U.S.-based correspondent from Australia reporting on the protests, you can see there she's hit by an officer's rubber bullet. President Trump going over the governor's head, sending the state's National Guard to the scene, and tonight he's now sending hundreds of these U.S. Marines. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, leading us off tonight on the scene in Los Angeles. Matt is one-on-one with border czar Tom Homan tonight.
Tonight, 700 Marines are on their way to the streets of Los Angeles to assist the National Guard and law enforcement tamp down violent clashes with protesters angry over the Trump administration's immigration policies and arrests. Over the past 72 hours, pockets of LA descending into chaos. Protest.
Yo, that's crazy. Bro, there's like all this fire, explosions, bombs. It looks like they were using fireworks to do damage. And then you saw that reporter getting shot with a rubber pellet or whatever. That is crazy. I don't know, man. I feel like it's both sides that are, what's the word? Kind of igniting the flame to push their narrative of, you know, oh, everyone's illegal, therefore we got to deport them all, to the other side being, well, they're good people, we need to keep them, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know there's illegals that have come through who are criminals, who are out to do no good, but that doesn't represent every single person. Like, just because there's one bad apple doesn't mean every other person has to be, you know, has to pay the consequence. Now, when you talk about the illegal, undocumented people who are coming through the border, I mean, technically that's breaking the law, right? I mean, comment if you disagree with me, but you get here illegally, you broke laws to get here. It's like, what do we do? Just forgive you? I mean, sure, but what does that mean for other people who broke the law? Like, do we give them a pass, you know? I don't know. I think it's very nuanced, and it's not like a clean cut situation with what's happening. Because it's weird. Because, you know, there's businesses that in America that value cheap labor. Where you get the cheap labor? From these immigrants, because they'll do it. Because, you know, a lot of times some of our own people in America won't do these, you know, low-paying jobs. But you'll find any immigrant coming from any country who will do it and won't complain. So we're benefiting from having these immigrants here working. But then at the same time, we got our administration wanting to have more control over who's coming through the border, which I get, because we're having like these criminals come through. Like, they have to enforce some level of control over who comes through the border, which, I mean, what do you guys think? Does there need to be a better reform of like our immigration, which I think there should be. But obviously you see this is causing crazy stuff happening.
Setting cars on fire, dumping bikes and scooters on police cruisers on the highway. Law enforcement firing hundreds of flashbangs and non-lethal projectiles and making dozens of arrests. It got so heated in the streets that a British photographer needed emergency surgery after being struck by a non-lethal projectile.
Moving them on through the...
And there was this moment. Watch as a correspondent for 9 News
girl that got
Australia.
You just shut the
reporting on the protest when an officer hits her with a rubber pellet. And tonight, an escalating war of
Bro,
words
that don't even
between
look like
California
America.
Governor Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. Newsom suing the president for creating the conditions for this chaos when he sidestepped California officials to deploy thousands of National Guard troops.
Are you going to deploy Marines in California?
We hope to have the support of Gavin because Gavin's the big beneficiary as we straighten out his problems. I mean, his state is a mess.
Newsom then slammed by Trump and border czar Tom Homan for his response to the unrest. Homan initially suggesting the governor should be arrested, something Trump seemed to support just hours ago.
That's crazy. You know what's crazy too? Tom Homan used to be, I think it was like the last year or last 2 years of Obama's presidency term. He was the border czar for him. And President Obama, he deported a lot of people. Now, maybe by the end of Trump's second term, maybe Trump will be the one ahead of the president that deported the most. But like, you know, Obama had Homan doing the same stuff. But we didn't really hear much about that, you know. But now we're seeing all of it happen. Now that Homan's under President Trump's administration, we're seeing all of it happen. But I don't know, y'all. What do y'all think? Like, is there a balance? Like, there needs to be more control over immigration, who's coming through the border. How do we vet who's good, who's bad? Can we do a background check? Are we doing background checks? Like, is it even possible? But then also, how do we care for people who are trying to flee dangerous countries, worsening governments that they're coming from? Like, you know, how do we balance the two? Because with all of this happening, there has to be some sort of solution for our country to move forward. Because I mean, this is a perfect scenario to continue to cause division amongst, you know, the left, the right, the people who are all for immigration and these workers, these migrant workers, but then the other side of people wanted to enforce the law to deport any illegal and every illegal, whether you working or not, deport them all. Like, is there a balance? How do we bring those two together? So in this article that I looked up on the DHS.gov is just talking about kind of like what they're trying to enforce. You see in the article, you see all the pictures and stuff that's been happening. What they say up here. And it says, while the mainstream media and far left politicians have lied point blank to Americans that these riots in Los Angeles have not been violent, the American people can see with their own eyes the truth, said Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. Rioters are throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails at law enforcement, defacing public property, setting cars on fire, defacing buildings, assaulting law enforcement, and burning American flags. Yeah, I saw that the other day on some video, like them laying flags on the floor, setting them on fire. That's wild. The violent targeting of law enforcement in Los Angeles by lawless rioters is despicable, and Democratic politicians must call for it to end. So you can see these photos here. It's crazy what's happening. I like to get Stephen A's perspective. He had Kevin, he's the one reporter with Entertainment Tonight. He lives in California, and he kind of asked him some questions about what's going on, because he's getting like the firsthand kind of testimony of what's happening. So let's listen.
Tonight, one of my best friends in the world. I've known him many, many years, and he's a contributor to this show. The one and only Kevin Frazier for Entertainment Tonight, here to talk about what's going on. What's going on, man? What is going on in Los Angeles, California? We see CNN, we see MSNBC, we see Fox News, we hear political pundits on both sides of the aisle telling us what's going on. What's really going on in Los Angeles? Is it really as bad as it looks?
That's been the disappointing thing, watching national cable news and watching the way they have inflated the situation. At night, things are getting a little ugly with a few agitators that are in a very small sliver.
Let's pause here. I gotta pause so that way I'm not getting copyright stuff. But yeah, Kevin Frazier says inflated. Like, a lot of the stuff is inflated, both on the right, I think, and both on the left. The right is saying LA's up in chaos. Every square foot block is in shambles. But then on the left, you know, they're they're giving their side of what's happening and also inflating it too. Some politicians, some leaders are saying Trump is inciting violence by sending the troops and Marines and National Guard. He's causing it to worsen. Like what? Like Stephen A. mentions, if you watch his clip of his response, like I agree with him in him saying that if the president sends troops, National Guards to a state that needs controlled over what's going on, controlling the protests to make sure it doesn't go out of control, why would that incite more violence? You would think that would control it. Like if you saw a bunch of law enforcement, armored vehicles, troops showing up to your block while you're protesting, the last thing you want to do is be throwing Molotov cocktails, burning down, cars, burning down American flags. How how would that incite violence? Let's continue to see what Kevin says.
Los Angeles. You have to understand, Los Angeles is a large, sprawling city. Downtown is a small part of it. And in a small part of downtown, there are issues. And let me put it to you this way. Last night, I was at the Peacock Theater for the BET Awards. Now, you're talking about big major stars moving in and out and around the city. There were no problems. There were no issues. There was a convention going on in downtown Los Angeles. And I was so disturbed by what I saw on the national news that I drove up to where the protests were going. I drove right up to the police barricade and then I turned around. What I saw is a lot of youngsters walking around videoing. I saw people that had graffitied all over the place. The people who are doing the graffiti and causing any damage at all need to go to jail ASAP. And
Yep, yep,
they need to be put under the jail.
yep. I agree, and that's what I was saying before. Like it's the few people that are involved with all the damaging of property, the graffiti, the firework bombs or whatever. They're ruining it for all the peaceful protesters that are really just trying to make their voices known, help stand up for the marginalized. That's what they're trying to do. But then you got the wild ones who are running around going crazy. Like it then it's easy for media channels to paint that picture. The only places they're taking pictures of is the places where there's the fires, there's the bombs, there's the burning of the American flag, but you're not seeing what's really happening a majority of the places. People who are peacefully protesting, they just want to help voice their opinions and help support those people groups who are in need, which they feel like the migrants need support, and that's their prerogative. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's like the media, man, on both sides, man. They can overemphasize some things on their sides where it makes you kind of question, like, is this all true? Is some of it true? Because I know that they can inflate the issues.
But the narrative that is being sold, the narrative that is being pushed out there, that LA is in chaos, that the city is burning, that it would have burned down if it wasn't for the president sending in troops, is a false narrative. And I'm telling you that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And so it's very bothersome that LA is functioning as normal, but I see the
Let's read this. If I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful great city would be burning to the ground right now. Much like 25,000 houses burned to the ground in LA due to incompetent governor and mayor. Incidentally, the much more difficult, time-consuming, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, yeah, when you read his post, like, is this hyperbole? Is Trump known to use hyperbole? Yes. Let's just take his scenario and go for it. If he did not send troops to LA, would the city be burning to the ground? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it would still be all right. They'd probably still have those crazy rioters. Hopefully they would have been under control by the, LAPD. But yeah, I don't think it would be burnt to the ground.
news and on both sides. I'm not saying that it's one and not the other. On both sides
Yeah,
are
on both sides. That's what
inflating
he's
this
saying.
situation,
Yep.
and that has been horrible.
And that's the thing that's been driving me crazy about it, because I saw Fox News, and naturally 2,000 National Guards have been sent by Trump. 700 United States Marines have been sent by Trump, and so you thinking that's 2,700. Plus, they're saying additional National Guardsmen are going to be sent to protect federal property. You see that onslaught of troops coming into a major city in the United States of America. It would certainly give that impression, and Fox News didn't hesitate to do that. But then I look around and I see Aaron Burnett and others from CNN in their own way doing somewhat the same thing. Why are people doing that in your estimation, Kevin, if that's not truly what's going on in the city of Los Angeles?
Eyeball, Stephen. And if you're watching our good friend Stephanie Elam this morning on CNN, she has really done a great job of setting the record straight. She was down near the damage. She talked about the incredible cleanup that has gone on in Los Angeles today in the areas that were affected, how
Yeah.
graffiti is being.
We'll just pause there for the video, but yeah, it's crazy because it's like you have two opposing sides who are giving their version of the story. I do think there's truth on both sides. On one side, there's not completely burning and destruction of the whole city. There are people who are doing crazy stuff, which, like Kevin says, those people should be arrested, should be sent to jail. But then on the other side, there is some truth to it, meaning that they are going in and grabbing people who are illegally undocumented. I know it's hard to hear that for some people, but it's like we got to enforce the law, but also how do we show compassion and care for those who are trying to come have a better life? There's a balance, but like it's hard to look at the media and just trust everything it says, whether you're watching Fox News or you're watching CNN. That's why I feel like that's why it's important to like check every perspective and then glean from those and figure out what's the truth. And I mean, also there's other sources where they're more like middle ground sources where you can read and watch what's really going on, because it's if you just watch one side, man, I feel like you can be brainwashed, you can be swayed into believing a certain thing even if it isn't true. So yeah, what's going on in LA right now, it's crazy. These ICE raids, them trying to pick up these illegal immigrants, send them out of the country, these riots, these protests that's happening. It's a crazy world. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys feel like this is going to just cause more division in our country? How do you feel like this compares to even the riots that happened in the 90s with the Rodney King beating? Do you guys feel like there's like this correlation with what's going on in LA right now with marginalized groups? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Comment below. Comment if you want to see more videos like this. Like I said, I'm just now starting out on YouTube. I'm just trying to make more videos and post as much as I can. So guys, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Like and subscribe. Thank you guys. Peace.